Hello there, everybody. You may really be in a position where you're looking for some advice and you are a Black entrepreneur, or specifically a Black female entrepreneur. And sometimes we can feel like we're in this race alone. However, you are not. So today's conversation is going to be something I think is going to resonate, and it's a conversation I think we need to have more around. So I just want to thank you, Lawanda, for being a yes to doing this live stream with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. I love good conversation and it's just like brunch. Anytime I can have good conversation and good company, it's a win. So
Awesome, fantastic. So for those on my channel that don't know, well, first of all, I guess I should even introduce myself because some people don't even know who I am when they're going to watch this recording. Hello, everybody. This is Jessie. I am the founder of Green Eyed Ambition. On this channel, we like to talk about all of the unsexy things about entrepreneurship. There's a lot of conversation about the flashy things, but we're not having a lot of real heart-to-heart conversations that help people with having true breakthroughs in their business. So, in today's conversation, the whole goal of it is to be talking about the entrepreneurial journey of Black female entrepreneurs and some of the challenges as well as obstacles we've been able to overcome. So, we are hoping that some of the things that we're able to share are going to resonate with you today. So, Luanda, go ahead and share exactly a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into this conversation.
sure, I am LaWanda Tillett. I am the owner of Curated Experience by LT. It's not only my concierge service, it's also a show that I host weekly on Wednesdays. But I won't do that plug. But my heart space is for serving people. My heart is always about connecting people, products, and services together and bringing people together. I'm a mom of two. They're grown now, 25 and 22. Affectionately, people call me LT. Um, I think that's pretty much it. I like to have a good time. I'm a writer and, like I said, a host, and I just like to have a good time. I love experiences. As I'm getting older, I'm finding I want experiences more than I want things.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome. So I would love for you to share about like what actually got you to start your journey in entrepreneurship.
So quite honestly, I kind of was dibbling and dabbling when I first got married. We're divorced now, but at that time, I was just like, well, it'd be great to. I've been doing events, and we hosted stuff at our house all the time, and we're doing different things. So it'd be kind of cool to get into that space as a business. So my first time, I was like, it didn't go as well. But the next time, it was more for me, but at the same time, I was getting to experience a divorce. And
Mm,
so I wanted to, but I was like, well, you're going to need to do something to up the ante on your income. So this is what
mm,
this needs to look like. So I started my entrepreneurial journey in 2014.
mm.
And at that time it was Little Black Dress event planning and concierge service. So that's what prompted me to start the entrepreneurial journey out of this. One was because I wanted to at first, and then it became want and necessity. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. So did you ever before that moment think to yourself like I want to be like is this like some people I feel like they have always thought like maybe I can or should or down the road, and some people are like I never thought I would be one. What would you say you were more in that
I would
category?
have. I was more the second. I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I went to school for
Mhm.
journalism, so as far as I was
Oh.
concerned, yeah, I expected and was looking at this life where I was going to be traveling all around the world,
Mm.
covering this story and that story, experiencing these amazing things. So no, entrepreneurship was not on my horizon when I was, endeavoring upon school and different things. That wasn't even on my path, honestly.
Oh wow. Yeah, because with myself, I kind of always wanted to be one, but not full time. That's the funny part about it. Is like I never thought to do it full time. My mom teased me about it because like growing up I was like, oh, I'm gonna work my way up to corporate. Like I had this very clear like pathway
Mm.
I was going to go in corporate America, and I was totally fine with working my way up. I was like, I knew I'm gonna go far and all of those different things. And I was like, oh, then once I get to a certain level, then I'll start to do something on the side that I'm passionate about. Like that's kind of how I had envisioned the pathway. However, what changed it was mostly some life things, personal life things, and I don't have any regrets for any of those personal life things. But like when you fast forward. I remember one time I was in the car with my mom driving, and she was like, "You remember you used to say that you were going to start a business after you grew in corporate America and this, that, and the other, and like here you are now, you got your own business." And it's funny how life goes down these paths, and I think it's important for us to be flexible and know that there's different ways to doing this. And I think my vision was because I always saw my mom in corporate America. Like she's a teacher, she was a teacher, but she had a daycare center to take care of me because when my parents got divorced, she needed someone to watch. So she had that daycare center from when I was 6 until I was 18, and she sold it. Like,
Wow.
so I've always saw you can have both, even before the flashiness of social media. Like I saw people that were full on in entrepreneurship. I saw someone having a staff and a team and paying herself a salary and still working in education and doing great things in education. And then she even started a temp agency. But then when one of the the second to last recession that happened, that temp agency had like closed down.
Right.
And I'm sharing this only because I think sometimes in this space we only see one thing, and
Exactly.
I feel like it's Louis Vuitton bags and just traveling, and
And
everyone's
it's
making
and
seven
it's
figures.
and it's
Like,
you know, and it's so much more than that. And then we also have this other dynamic that's taking place where you say your mom had both. We have this other dynamic taking place where you have to choose. It's like
yeah,
if you are either you're working full time, and if you working full time, then you can't rightfully have a business, because if you have
yeah,
this business, then there's no way you're giving it the full commitment. But if you go into it with a plan,
yeah,
and just figuring out, like your mom did, how to make both work, then it's possible. So you got these two things battling,
mm-hmm,
battling each other. You got the word, you got the system saying, no, you can't have both. And you got the other side saying you got to pick one of, you can
yeah,
do all these things and you
yeah,
can get burnt out. But I think you said it best about not being so married and committed to this is the plan and this is how the plan has to go,
yeah,
because that's where the disappointment comes in. When the plan
yeah,
doesn't go how you expect it, even as
yeah,
planners, we still have to have that room in our planning for pivoting.
yeah,
I haven't had an event yet that went 100% the way we planned it, but it
yeah.
went 100% the way it was supposed to go because we were able to shift. So,
Yeah. And it requires flexibility. I think with being planners, we have to be flexible, but also with being business owners, it requires for us to have some level of flexibility because how I envision the business starting at and what is done are two different things. And that's why even when they say if you create a business plan, you want to have a business plan, but then you also want to go back to it. It's not like this finite thing because sometimes we have these ideas of how it's supposed to be and all these things, and unless you have someone else's model that you're rinsing repeating but you're making your own and you live in the exact same area and you're serving the exact same people, the reality is that there's going to be different needs, there are going to be different levels of
hmm
expectation, different marketing, and those things require for you to continuously assess it so that you're making sure that it's producing the result that you wanted to produce and you're going in a direction in which you want to go inside of your business. So flexibility is almost key for both being a business owner, but also, in the event industry itself.
I think in this day and time that we find ourselves in this season, things
Mm-hmm.
are constantly shifting. And so I think you
Yeah.
have to be flexible in every area of your life. You have to be flexible in parenting and
Mm-hmm.
going to school, because you may want to go to school in person, things may happen, you have to pivot and be able to learn online. So I just think, like you said, flexibility is this new universal word, if you will. I think
Yes.
it's part of our day-to-day lives. Being flexible is a necessity. So.
Yeah, 100%. So if you don't mind sharing, like what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you started your business?
So one of the biggest challenges I faced was the main question: why do you want to do that? It's like, why don't you just want to get a job? Which I still had a job, but like, why do you
Yeah.
want to do that? So not having that full on support that I thought I was gonna have,
Mm.
and not that I didn't have it from everybody, but it was a couple of people like, well, oh, your little business, or you want to do that. And I was like, okay, so that was one challenge. Another
Mhm.
challenge was getting out of my own way, just believing that I could do it.
Mm.
Believing that I could step out on faith, that I could start the business, and that I really could be successful at it. That what I was already doing and enjoying doing, I just needed to add the business piece to it.
Mhm.
Um, so that was a challenge for me, getting out of my own way. Another challenge that I feel became a struggle was that need to grow and grow fast. And I say
Mm.
that because I
Yeah.
felt a lot like Snow White. I felt
Yeah.
like I was eating at I was like these shiny red apples
Yeah.
that came as opportunities. And I was trying to find myself eating everybody's shiny red apple.
Yeah.
And I found out that those apples weren't always good for me. And
Yeah.
so I think that was the biggest challenge, being able to pace myself, being able to use discernment to know, is this the best investment? Just because this client comes here and as much as they're vetting me, I need to know that I'm vetting them too.
Yeah.
Um, so, believing in myself, knowing that I could do it, moving past the opinion of other people, and just really pacing myself were some of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurship, and not paying attention to what was happening around me. When I say paying attention, in the event planning space, it can get saturated so fast and people can make you think that your service isn't needed. That, oh, we've got this planner here. We don't need another planner in the industry.
Mhm.
But being able to know that my service was needed and being comfortable in that space.
Yeah.
Those were the challenges that I felt I hit in the beginning of entrepreneurship in that regard.
So, what would you say then is, and I'm glad you mentioned this because I honestly feel like there's going to be some people that are going to resonate with what you're talking about. Because I feel that even myself, I've had certain categories of this, but even when I'm talking to people on social media or just in consults and things like that with the consulting side of my life, the pacing thing I think it's definitely a big thing. And even when I was talking to someone at one of the universities that's responsible for some of the curriculum for some of the entrepreneur centers that's out here, and they were like, statistically, most businesses don't make six figures. And then when you go to 250, then the number goes down to single digit percentages. And I think because what happens is that people focus so much on getting there fast. And then when you get there fast and then you don't have any of the structure that's there, then it can crumble, and it can probably crumble pretty fast as well. So it's ultimately allowing yourself to grow, but not being in the position that you're not allowing yourself to learn along the way. And finding ways to improve how you're doing things, because I know I can only speak for myself. I remember when bad things would happen. I took those things so personally, and now I'm like, I prefer for them not to. However, when it does, it's like, okay, what can I learn from this? How do I make sure that X, Y, and Z happens inside of our business so that this doesn't occur again? You figure out like how do you improve processes so that they can be, that those things don't happen. But the thing is that sometimes when we're going so fast, we don't one know what's
I
working.
was just getting ready to say that, it was, I'm laughing because so the minute you said that, I thought about new in business, not just the shiny apples for opportunities with clients, shiny
Yeah,
apples for things.
yeah,
Everybody had, like, oh, you should try this. You should try Calendly for your
yeah.
appointments, and you should schedule these breakthrough calls and all these different things. And it was like, you should do this and you should do that. So then I went from not having anybody in my corner to now everybody was like, oh, you should do it's the constant and the constant barrage of advice. Oh, do
Mm-hmm,
this and do this and do this. And like you said, trying to do all the things and thinking you should have all the things.
mm-hmm,
Um, and it really came from a place of, because I wasn't secure and certain about me, going back to that whole part of knowing that I had faith, having that
mm-hmm,
set faith that I could make it and I could do it. Not that I
mm.
had to do it alone, but if I had
Yes.
trusted myself enough, Luana, you can do this, I believe I would have been more willing to pace myself. I wouldn't have had to have the business cards and the pens and the website and all these different things and trying to get all these bells and whistles together. I could have just kept the main thing, which was the service, because
Yeah.
for me, I provide a service. Keep
Yeah.
the main thing, and as you said, leave room for learning along the way. But in this time where it's like we want things right now, and then
Mm-hmm.
looking and and not staying on my race and looking at other people what they were doing in their business and maybe I should have this over here in my business.
Yeah.
Um, those things they start to get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said, we're trying all the processes, but if you don't run one process all the way through, you won't even know if it actually worked or not. To what you said, it's like before you even gave it a chance. Oh, here's a new shiny, fancy,
Yeah.
bigger, better process. Let's try this.
Yeah. 100%. And I was like laughing to myself, like, so during the pandemic, honestly, I was so oblivious to anything outside of my business circle. Like, I didn't even consume a lot of other people content in that in like in the industry, um, because like you said, it distracts you, and I honestly felt as if some of the stuff that was being put out there wasn't always aligned as well. So then I'm like, I just never paid attention to any of it. Green Eyed Ambition actually was one of those platforms I just showed my personal life. I didn't use it for anything else. I was just running my business, working with my business coach, had mentors, um, and I was just laser focused on the goals and the actions that they had. But then I think during the pandemic, that's probably when there was this big shift where I don't know if it was some of the talk about when you were seeing that polarization of saying you can't have both, why work for someone else, and like all this negative stuff. And I'm gonna
Hmm.
stop, like, and I'm not being a hater. Everyone is not intended to be their own business owner. I'm gonna let you know.
That's
There's
a
some
true,
people.
but that's a true statement. Like
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that's a 100% true. That we really just need to go ahead, like you said, the unsexy part.
yeah,
Entrepreneurship is for everybody for so many reasons, not just because not just because of the business piece of it, but the headache. It's not
yeah,
always fun.
yeah.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, that's why I had to have my
Mm.
tea, because I'm sick. So,
Oh my goodness, it came out of nowhere. But I just think, and then we forget we encourage entrepreneurship, but there has to be somebody that does the work for us.
hmm,
But for the products that we push out,
yes,
how the products gonna get outside?
yeah,
Yes, somebody can have their own. They can have their own trucking company and say,
yeah,
yes, we're gonna push these products, but you're only one person. And
yeah,
I think that's another unsexy part about business is realizing while you're one person and you're amazing and fabulous and can do all the things, you can't do all the things all the time.
yeah.
And so,
And I always say, like, why would I want to? And why would I want, like, why would I want to do business alone? Like, I honestly would not want to every day just be in my own world. I say, I know that sometimes, like, I call myself a introvert extrovert. Like, I love people. I love meeting people. I enjoy that. However, I get to a point where I have too much interaction, then I'm like, okay, time to go back home. Go back in my home.
your social media battery is just like,
And I don't even force myself at this point. I'm like, when I don't have anything to give, I don't give it. But I think it's important to know that this is where, even too, when you start having a team, like understanding where are you going to get your source of encouragement, like what kind of culture you're going to create. And I think with entrepreneurship, because this fantasy was sold during the pandemic, because there was extra money being flooded into the economy, and people were talking so badly about work, and I was like, y'all shooting yourselves in the foot, because I need people that want to work with me. How are you going to be like, oh, you don't need anybody, but you have employees? Like, how does that look? That looks crazy. So you're
exactly.
like, hey, I'm going to encourage you to leave me so I can find someone else and then pay them money to train. Like, we don't understand that working as a team, it makes such a huge difference instead of us trying to do this all on our own. And I'm glad that we had this conversation. I think that because so much conversation about or downplaying or down talking having a great job is, like, you can do both, you can do either or. Like, it doesn't have to be that you aren't doing great if you don't have a business, and it doesn't mean that if you have a business that I just think that narrative is so played out.
It is very played out, and I think it lends itself to, we may not want to call it, but I think it lends itself to shaming
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, shaming somebody because they decide to be an entrepreneur, and we know
Yeah.
with entrepreneurship comes the struggles of, you may not have the health insurance you want to have, you may,
Yeah.
and all the things. There's like these other pieces and parts that people don't consider when it comes to entrepreneurship, especially full-time entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So at some point, you may need to work somewhere to use that capital, that money to filter
Yeah.
in so you can build that, what they call exit plan, if you
Yep.
will, into full-time entrepreneurship. But also know, what does that come with? You have a whole family. If you have a whole family, health insurance has to be top of your list. So when
Yes.
you make this exit strategy and this financial move, what does this look like? And so I think sometimes people don't think about that. But then
Mhm.
they're, and back to that full circle piece of the shaming, you have people shaming those who are into entrepreneurship, and you have people who are in entrepreneurship shaming those who work 9 to 5. Well, the ones who work 9 to 5 is for a reason. They want to take care of their families. They want a little bit of
Yeah.
stability. They want those things that somebody else is providing and want to utilize that as a way and means to do something else. So we don't know. Everybody has different desires, but
Yeah.
what we have to remember is everybody's necessary. I need the post office. I
Yeah.
need FedEx. I
Yeah.
need these things because while we do a lot of online, I haven't seen anybody sending anything through your computer. It comes out your computer.
Yeah. Exactly.
So so you need somebody. So it's just like, we have, I would like to believe that, or encourage that, as entrepreneurs, we love and support the people who do the work that we need them to do, and know that everybody has a place in the sun. We
Yeah.
have a place that where we all need to function so that we can do, like you said, do business together. I need
Yeah.
them, they need me. I need the bank, I need the grocery store. Please don't let the grocery store go out of business. That's the whole other conversation.
Yes.
So yeah.
And I mean, I'm glad that we're even having this conversation because I think even if we say how some of the jargon and conversation in Black community, one about entrepreneurship, about telling people information, which is trust, and
Listen.
and you can't trust, like a lot of it's trust because there's this disbelief, and then we have the lack of access into certain rooms depending on who you are and what environments you've been raised in. And so I would love to hear, like, from your experience as an entrepreneur, what have been some of the challenges you have faced?
As far as access, or far as, just.
Just in general, like, have you found that, well, like with you, you said your community is most of your community, like your circle of influence. Are they mostly individuals that have only worked, or have they actually been entrepreneurs, or has it been a blend? Some of the
it's
people
been
that you weren't as supportive.
it's been a good blend because I have those, a good portion of my friends, there. Which, now that you say that, a lot of them are professionals in their own right. Some of them are therapists. Some of them have their own. They're in the hierarchy of human resources and different things.
Yes,
And so my circle looks a little different. Everybody's doing something that's that's their career. And then
yes,
there's some of them who have their own side business. And when I say side business, there are things that they're able to start and run and have somebody else that manages, and they just touch point back on it.
yeah.
My significant other, he himself, he is a full-time driver, truck driver. So he
Okay.
drives, but then he also has his own transportation company. And
Mm,
so he does that on the weekend, but he managed to connect with a good networking source, a referral source, and it's a set contract. So on the weekends, it's a set contract. And if he wants to extend throughout the week, he can. But it's just
yeah,
like, that's why I said the circle is a blend. Um, what I appreciate about my circle, my community of friends and entrepreneurs and workers, is that we respect each other.
mm,
It's about a respect. It's not a downing or a shaming of what we do. We see each other just as, you're contributing in this way. So
mm.
I won't say it's been a challenge in that regard. As you said, I'm mindful about what I see, on what I take in, and
Yes,
I see mostly on media, social media, where people are shaming others. They're not my circle. I am
yeah,
acquainted to them. I know them, but that's
yeah,
not my belief, and I just don't comment. I pick to choose. I pass or play. So if I
yeah,
want to play, I'll comment. If I don't like it, I'll pass and keep it moving.
yeah.
So that challenge is more. I don't think I've had that challenge in that regard because they're like, do whatever you want to do with Wanda. Like, hey, they're like, we're there. If you need us, we'll support you. My sister, for a long time, she was my sister and my two girls were my main employees because it's an event planning company. So
Yeah.
they were my three employees. So it was me and three.
Yeah.
And, but what I learned in that season though, as they got older and start, doing their other things was I needed to pivot. If I wasn't in a
Mm-hmm.
position as an entrepreneur to bring on or scale so that I could add people on, what then could I do? So I shifted how I did business and what it looked like. So that was probably a bigger challenge. It was like, okay, do I fold the business? Do I give up on the business, or do I pivot and shift so that it works for me as a solo entrepreneur, number
Mm-hmm.
one employee, marketing, research, development, all the things.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that was probably the bigger challenge, was just trying to make a decision on whether to fold or keep going. Um, but my community was still supportive in that regard. They're like, hey, Luana, if you need to work, you can go ahead and work and we'll help you on the weekend, or whatever you need to do, we'll help. So I appreciated my community that rallied around me in that way.
And I'm glad
Hopefully
that
I
you,
answered that question.
yeah, you did kind of, but then also too, I wanted to tag team on it, but I'm glad that you recognized that you had, and I'm sure you probably leaned more into the ones that are supportive, because I feel that sometimes in our communities, like in Black community, like you don't all like you can have some that are super supportive to certain things, and then you have those who are like, "Ooh, don't like." I had someone that communicated with me. She's a talented chef, super talented, and out of love and wanting to protect her, there was an opportunity for her to go to another state, and she was concerned because she would be a minority in that state, in that area. And it was like, the thing is like, as someone who's often in mixed spaces, I, I'm like, and you already know someone that's there. I'm like, they wouldn't have invited you if they didn't feel safe. And I'm like, you don't only have to be in certain spaces to be able to excel. And sometimes you find that you excel more when you get outside of your comfort zone and get outside of certain spaces. And the response from family and things like that wasn't negative. Like it wasn't intended to be negative. And I think that that's
Right.
sometimes what happens. And we have to be realistic. Like people are still crazy and racist as hell. So that's
No,
not everyone
that is a reality. I mean,
is a
and
reality.
yeah, and they probably said, you said, out of love and concern. And I'm reminded, because I'm a woman of faith, and my faith and my belief, and I just think about, when Jesus himself wasn't celebrated in his own town and had to leave and go somewhere. So for
Yeah.
me, I think about it like that. There are times that in your own community, whether that's your immediate circle or community at large, particularly in our Black culture,
Yeah.
that sometimes you get you feel disappointed that you're not celebrated
Yeah.
because they want to support, but they want to support to the financial level that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like, I'll just, for our industry and events, it's easier for somebody to say, oh, I want to do this. And no, please let me know. Oh, we want you to do all these things. But when you start naming all the things and the costs associated to these things, then
Yeah.
it's, oh, well, Auntie Mary or whoever, she can cook the yams, and we'll just get them
Yeah.
to do the food, and then we can get them to pick up that. So then you start this whole nickeling diming process that
Yeah.
happens. Now that is a challenge. That is a challenge in your own community. So to your point, and to the chef's point, leaving the area isn't always a bad thing. But
Hmm.
sometimes we can make our community, our culture, my loving Black people, we can sometimes say, well, you don't, make us feel bad for making a decision about
Hmm.
leaving the community. But
Yeah.
if you're not getting what you need in that moment, you have to do what's necessary so then you can come back and
Yeah.
service the community well. And I think sometimes we forget that it's okay to leave and come back.
Yeah. And I think too is also understanding, like, with what like what service I'm doing, is it aligned? And it might not always be. And I think that that's okay, because, and it's not that, oh, you're only servicing non-Black people. No, it's not that. It's like if you have a high level private chef company or a high level wedding planning company, you'll just naturally see that only certain people are going to afford. So it's not naturally deselecting a specific
Correct.
ethnicity. And that's why often on my videos I talk about the importance of understanding your niche. Who do you serve? And what are the things in which they are interested in? So like, does it need to be like this whole blueprint? Not always, but I think you need to know who it is. Like I've had conversations with people like, oh, anyone that can be my client. I'm like, okay,
It's cute.
that
I like
that
it's. I was like, no. I was like, that it's cute, but that's all money isn't good money. And I
yeah.
and I and I say that in the best way, in that when you when you start the service or start the business and you're providing the service,
Hmm.
um, like you said, it's not intentional of you excluding anybody. But then
Yeah.
you get this, then you get this question raised to you. Well, oh, so why are you pricing it so high, or why is it? But the cost is the cost, you know. And
Hmm.
it's like, just because I set this cost doesn't mean I have to pull it down for the
Hmm.
purposes because you need me to pull it down. It's kind of like we want what we want, and we
Hmm.
want people to succeed, but we also have this whole idea of, but it shouldn't cost what it costs.
That is really the key. But I think too, the biggest thing, especially like because I see content from like different um like black chefs, caterers, balloon
Hmm.
artists, and things like that. And what sometimes can happen is I remember there was this era, this small window where everyone was showing lobster mac and cheese on their Instagram. Everyone was showing lobster mac and cheese. And then I was like, do you know the average person don't associate that as a high, like they're thinking this isn't going to cost me $50 per person. Like they're not associating lobster mac and cheese to $50 per head. And what happens is again when we don't have clarity, like we're trying to show that we can do soul food and different things like that, but also understand when you show certain foods that are typically equated as a low cost point,
Hmm.
but you're trying to charge a premium price, then there's going to be this huge disconnect. And then what happens is the ones that may not really have a finesse when it comes to business, then they'll go onto their Instagram page and blast people for not respecting their prices and all of these different things, but then don't understand like you're attracting those people with the content. Hold on one second. I just realized that I put my 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my alarm is going off. I did all the things. Turn off that. But that was the thing that I tell people is like when you have clarity on who you're serving, it helps you with one, making sure you're marketing the things that are speaking to those people. You're having the ability to showcase that your business is at a certain level. Like I was recently looking for someone for a team building event that taught art classes, and I found her and I saw the pictures of the art classes are great. And then I went to her Instagram page and then she's half naked and all the other photos. And so I'm like, oh, sorry, I got to pass on that. Like, it's just, we don't always, and I think that's sometimes can be the biggest disadvantage for us in our community is that we don't always have the ability of understanding or people that are coaching us truly to have professional businesses that can grow and that we're attracting the clients that we truly deserve, not just taking whatever someone's going to pay us.
It's funny you would say that about because having kids that are like 22, 25, they keep me youthful in a lot of ways, and they're like, hey
Yeah,
mom, they keep me tapped into all the areas. And so one of the things that we talked about was the professionalism piece, and so the conversation or the argument was, why do I have to stop being me in order to do this? You don't have to stop being you. You would just have a separate page. If you
yeah,
have a business page, and
yeah,
on your business page, then this is what you post on your business page. And every now and then you give a little snippets of who you are as a human. So because people want to connect to a human. So you do
yes,
that. But anything else that you don't think is in alignment with that, do that in a separate page. And,
Yeah.
so sometimes they just kind of laugh and like, Mom, you so old school. I said, no, but it's all about it really truly is about what you attract. And,
Yes.
but I also understood what my daughter was saying was like, well, I'm not responsible for how people perceive things, like they're grown, and they are. They
Hmm.
are. If you reach out to a business, you should know that in a business there is a cost attached to it. It's not going to be
Yeah.
free 99. So there
Hmm.
is some ownership that comes with that. And to, like you said, it's just about, hey, it's a prong.
Yes.
You're the customer, I'm the provider. You do
Yes.
your part, I'm gonna do my part. But you can't
Yes.
expect me to do my part for next to nothing. And I can't expect you to pay me for nothing.
Yeah.
That's the other side of it. Whatever you're agreeing to pay, I need to make sure I produce. And
Yes.
I think because we've had such a disconnect with that part of it, that
Hmm.
people are paying but not getting what they feel they paid for, that they
Yes.
feel like now they shouldn't have to pay a whole amount at all.
Yeah.
Now you're going in a whole nother trajectory, a whole nother path about what that looks like. And I think one of the things you and I talked about briefly before as we were preparing to come, for this show was to talk about, a little bit about customer service and how that really affects this
Yeah.
whole this whole narrative around money and cost and different things.
Yeah.
Sometimes people once they have a great experience, they'll pay for that. They'll
Yes.
pay that money again to have the best experience, to have no hassles, no frustrations,
Yeah.
food on time, service on time, whatever it is on time. They're willing to pay for that, but they got to have that first. If they don't
Yeah.
get that first, then it's hard to come back and get it again.
100% because I feel like sometimes, and I've seen people say this, um, I feel like at times with Black business owners, we aren't always given like that second chance, or it can sometimes be a little bit more heavily critiqued in a way.
Mhm.
But then also, sometimes I feel allowing ourselves to have professional businesses like that is because for some, I mean, as a planner, I'm sure you're sourcing people for things. I source people all the time,
Yep.
and then you can tell who is not running themselves professionally. And I've said this on my TikTok recently because I would say in the last month I've had 3 vendors drop big opportunities with me because they're not organized. And most of the time I lean more towards, I would say, not just Black owned but like minority owned businesses.
Mhm.
But and I'll always will hear people like, oh, our industry is so saturated. I'm like, no, a lot of people are out there cosplaying business owners, but they're not running like real
Not
businesses.
just shit. I love that they're cosplaying business owners.
Like that's what they're doing. I know if I'm looking for a new vendor, I'm gonna have to reach out to 10 people, and I'll be happy if I can get maybe 3 that will respond back. And typically that's not the case. Like, and I don't want it to be that way. I wish that there was some better way for people to be responsive, or present themselves professionally, like asking, because often for me it's just like, can I get pricing, like, or like, can I talk to you on the phone for like. And I think because what happens sometimes with us is that we don't always want to do phone calls, or because we're wearing
Yep.
so many hats that we just don't have the time to do some of this stuff. They're just like, oh, if I just give you this contact form only, and if you say a date that don't match, I'm just gonna let you know I'm not available. But here's the thing: I might have just put that date in just because I needed to do this, just so that I can get you your response. And
Exactly. My date could be flexible.
and that again is where, even with a lot of the stuff that I talk about, because I don't think a lot of people know that I even have an event business. I think I talk about that ad nauseum, but I don't think that people connect the dots on that.
Well, I laugh. I'm laughing because when you when you said about the dates and things, there are some vendors that I have that if I know I really want to use them,
Yeah,
I'm willing to, I will talk to my client. Hey, this is who we need. Is that date? Can we shift that date? And there are
yeah,
some people who really only choose their date based on the availability of somebody else.
yep,
They're like, hey, oh, and by the time they reach out to me for a service, they're like, hey, we've already talked to so and so, and this is when they're available. Can we figure out everything else? So
yeah.
it really, when you present yourself that way, when you really are about your business and
Mm,
people truly like you and the products and services that you render or have, man, you'd be surprised how much they'll shift their own plans just to
Yes.
ensure they can have they can get your product, your service.
Yep.
You know, and especially when you have people who do hair. Oh
Yes.
man, if in the hair industry, if when you are like the best stylist around and don't
Yeah.
let your stylist move, I know several people who either A, fly out to their stylist to get their hair
Yep.
done, or B, fly their stylist to them
Yeah.
to get their hair done. So there are times when you do business and do business well in any industry, people are going to do whatever they got to do
Hmm.
to get to you, your product or service. They
And some
really
people
will.
And some people will fight me on this. Like when I'm working with my honeybook clients and they want to say, oh, I want to have the budget question and the date questions. Those are the two things that always come up. I'm like, I'm going to let you know they're lying about both. So you can put that on there and just immediately send them a message. They're going to most times put what they think is going to cost, not always what they can afford, depending on what someone's life experience has been.
Hmm.
They might not just blatantly tell you, I can afford $30,000. No one's going to just write that really, unless they're making seven figures and 30,000 is cheap and they think it's going to, everyone's not going to just put that out in the ether. But I think the way that we have like our lead form, like our contact forms, our process, and how we are marketing our business, those things help people of like, okay, is this someone I can afford or is this someone I can't afford? You can have like certain filler questions because I get the reason for it because they're like, I want to see if this is someone that's even worth my time. However,
Absolutely.
I've had some people that said that their budget was this and then they end up paying double.
And I think, I think when it's presented and you figure out where people want to place their value for whatever it is, whether it's the
Yes,
product, whether it's the service, when people decide how they want to shift their money around, people are willing to bend a little bit. They'll find concessions from other places.
yes,
Or, even the vetting process goes both ways. We're vetting them as clients. They're
yes,
vetting us as a provider. And I think sometimes we come to the table with these misconceptions. Sometimes, like you said,
mm,
from the experiences that we have, and we may find out, man, that really isn't as expensive as I thought, or
yes,
this, or I really can have what I would like, and here's how it can happen. But if
yes,
you look at something on the service, you don't even get to have that conversation one way or the
yes,
other. You don't even get to
yes,
have that. And it's funny how, as entrepreneurs, we look at business that way, but we don't have that conversation with Walmart. We don't have that conversation with Target. We don't have that
yeah,
conversation with Macy's. We walk in. I've never seen anybody negotiating in Macy's, in Walmart, and Target. It's
yeah,
like whatever it is whatever it is. You walk in, and that's the assumption. You go in and you pay it, and we just go do what we have to do. So
mm-hmm,
it's that's how I look at it in terms of in entrepreneurship. To your point, if we just look at it as a business, I'm a
yeah,
business. This is what I have. I am State Farm. I am Progressive. I am whoever. So I got a service. I don't have a product. I got a service. I'm a
yeah,
cleaning service. I'm Dyson vacuum cleaner, whatever I am. This is who I am. This is what I got. Love it, like it, leave it. I'm
yeah,
Rolls Royce. Here I
yes,
am. Come drive me, come purchase me or not, and it's okay. But I just think as business owners, if we could if we started picking up that attitude, I think sometimes we think because we're small, we don't have that big vision.
yeah,
Maybe and I think that's the way I want to say we don't have that big vision or that big mindset that just because I just started my business, yes, I am growing to that, but I need to treat it the way I want it to be seen now.
mm-hmm. Yes, 100%.
So
I agree wholeheartedly. So one of the questions that I do want to make sure I ask, because I know that we've just been talking. That's what happened the last time. We're just like vibing. Um, the question that I wanted to have to ask, what advice would you give any other Black female entrepreneurs who are facing any barriers in their entrepreneurial journey? Like, what advice would you give them that if they're facing any right now?
get vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Be honest. Don't let social media bamboozle you to think that everybody's success was overnight and that they're making this money overnight and that because you're not making it today that you're a failure. Move past
Mm-hmm.
that. Get honest. Get honest with yourself. Be truthful about what's going on. Ask for help. Ask for
Yes.
help. Um,
Yeah.
if you ask one person in the industry and they say no, they're not the only person in the industry. Continue till you get that yes. have discernment about where it is you want to go, who you want to seek after, who you are trying to, for lack of a better word, model yourself after.
Yeah.
Be inspired, but don't let that be the only place you stop. Let them inspire you to get going, and then you exceed that. And anybody who's worth their salt would want you to exceed that because they want you to like, I'm motivating you, but go do your thing with your spin. So
Yeah.
I would just, so there's benefits in being honest and being vulnerable about where you are in your business or where you're not so that
Yeah.
you can get the right partnership, you can get the right help, you can get the right support,
Yeah.
all from being honest. So if that's the biggest thing I could say, in this entrepreneurial space is just to get honest because we have enough people, as you say, cosplaying. we have a, and it makes it sets people up. I really do
Yeah.
believe social media is a new catalyst. It's people see it and they're like, oh man, I can get my own jet, I can get all these things, I can do all these things, I can go all these places, and you can. But we don't know. They haven't showed us like how many nights that they slept in a car, or how many
Yeah.
nights they didn't eat what they wanted to eat. They had
Yeah.
the house, but they didn't eat what they wanted to eat. How many nights? What sacrifice? Because it costs something.
Yeah.
And so understanding that it costs something. So just being honest, be honest with yourself, be honest about who you are, where you are in your business so that you can get the right support.
I love that. I love that. So, for people that want to connect with you, what's the best way to find you so that they are able to reach out?
And the best way they can connect with me, you can connect with me on Facebook at Lawanda Tillett. You can connect with me on Instagram at Curated Experience by LT. I am very responsive. I try to make sure I respond. You can connect with me there. You can catch me Wednesday night starting in October again.
Awesome.
And then you can email me at Lawanda at curatedexperiencebylt.com. You can email me and reach out to me there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being a yes to today's conversation. And I
Absolutely.
am
Thank you for
super
having me.
grateful. And I think that like these are helpful because again, especially in our space in our industry, a lot of times people don't hear about this and or it just feels like we're on this island and we don't have to be. And I think that more genuine conversation is needed in this space.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to connecting with you again.
Thank you.